I do like Dracula more. So...
Yes, so this is the thing. It is better, right?
It is better. Now, I don't want to necessarily bash on Frankenstein, because I think it is also a good story for the most part. But there are areas where it can fail, whereas Dracula, I feel like, as an overall story, is better. For me, the reason I think Dracula is a really good book is that Dracula is always there. He's always in the back of your mind, like, okay, where is he going to be? He's in the fog. He could be an animal. You don't know where this threat is going to come from. Talking with my flatmate earlier today, I had mentioned it, and she said, like, it really freaked her out when, like, she saw Dracula, like, climbing on the side of the building. And for me, I thought that was funny because I thought him like a gecko.
And Dracula's also more powerful, right? He can summon animals and things and turn to a bat and whatever else. He can control wolves.
In those situations, yeah, to an extent, I would say yes. He also does have, like, super strength, and, like, it's very hard to defeat him.
He can turn other people into vampires. Frankenstein's monster can't really do anything, right?
To an extent. I'm just going to be talking about Dracula, it sounds like, at this point. Like, Dracula, for me... I know you didn't care for it as much when you read it, like,
the shipping
15 years ago.
Yeah.
It's the ship for me. Because for me, this felt like Ghost Ship. It was so haunting, like, what was happening, and you don't really know what happened. You find out later that it was Dracula. Frankenstein here, so finally getting into talking about Frankenstein. He is a monster in only his looks. He's the most eloquent speaker. Which, to me, is not what I expected. My image, of course, is like the Boris Karloff style. That he goes, ugh, and does nothing. And you have a Dr. Frankenstein who's a mad scientist with his, like, helper Igor. And, like,
with Igor, yeah.
None of that is in this book.
Yeah, I think that was all, like, Universal horror invention.
Yeah, and I don't love that was my horizon of expectations for this, but I do, in contrast to you, see myself more as the character Frankenstein, because he's someone who's out there just searching for knowledge. He's so thirsty for really anything, and he has this discovery of combining chemistry and alchemy to create this body, and I'm like, okay, the start of this, pretty interesting. But, so my version was the 1818 version. I don't know which one you have here. This might be the 1831 version, which had a few different edits, because Mary Shelley got a lot of flack from some conservative people saying, like, oh, maybe Frankenstein is a bit too likable in ways. Like, yeah, he is a likable person. He didn't try to create, like, a monster or anything. But mine was also split up into 3 volumes.
Ah, okay.
Which was kind of interesting. Volume 1 was about him going to school, and then at the very end of Volume 1, he creates the monster. And I'm like, okay, that is the first third of the book, if not less. That is very early on. Second third is basically you're hearing the monster's story. Because he finds Frankenstein after he tracks him down. He kills his brother. I forget if it was by accident, but I think it wasn't. Gets another woman killed.
Oh.
Because she was supposed to be, like, taking care of him or found by the body. And so she gets put to death by the court. Even though his cousin that he's in love with, and she loves him, like, she stands up for this person at court, said, like, yeah, we don't think that she actually killed our family member, so let her go. And the court's like, no, justice will still be served. I'm like, but what do you care? If the family is like, don't let this happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, then they go on vacation, and the monster tracks down Frankenstein and tells the story of his life, what he's been up to. He couldn't speak at first, but then learned from listening to others how to speak. Just watching this family, tried to get to know this family, but they freak out when they see him, kick him out. And it's it's really sad for Frankenstein's monster in this. Jeez. I made that mistake. Didn't mean to. So yeah, for Frankenstein's monster...
Books Boys has now been cancelled.
I'm sorry.
But now I'm forced to a role I don't want to be, which is that really douchey guy. Did you know that Frankenstein's actually not the name of the monster? And that guy you want to slap.
Yes, yes. He's called the Fiend. Damon even. Not even demon necessarily, like Socrates and all that.
Yeah.
Everyone's likable in a way, except then Frankenstein's monster is like, well, I'm miserable. You created me this way. I'm like, yeah, okay, I created you, but I also gave you life. Sure, you're maybe not pretty. You're a horror to look at, I guess, and it's a very sad life. I feel bad for you. But then it's like, I will kill your entire family if you don't make me a wife. Like, okay, what?
That's a bit much, but then, he was created... I don't want to say like as a joke, but he was created as a science experiment, right? Like
he was an experiment, and he didn't mean to turn him that way, necessarily.
Yeah. I remember... I read basically Dracula and Frankenstein back-to-back, similar to what you've done.
So it's been like 15
But 15 years ago. So my memories are very hazy, but I do remember liking Dracula more. I'm going to say something, though, because we've both done the comparison thing, and I think everyone listening will do that as well.
Yeah.
The two books, there's no reason to compare them. The only reason we compare them is because they got put together in movies by Universal, Hammer Horror, all those kind of horror companies. The books have nothing in common.
Not really at all. Dracula, to me, is that classic monster, in a way, that is a human in this case, but part human, part monster. Frankenstein here, he's called Frankenstein's monster, but he's really just he's a creation that is pitiable in this case. I don't see him as a monster. He's just misguided, and he never really had that type of nurture aspect to his life, which is quite sad. So he basically chases Frankenstein around, kills his best friend after Frankenstein refuses to build him a wife, and then kills his wife after gets married. Frankenstein, for some reason, believes on my wedding night, he's going to try to kill me. I'm like, he told you he's going to kill your family and everyone. He'll see you on your wedding night. Why do you think he's not going to kill your wife?
Yeah.
You're not with your wife on your wedding night, basically. You're patrolling the halls. You're stupid.
Yeah, that's dumb.
But then he goes off chasing him around the world because after this, his father dies from getting this shock. And then, not even Doctor, I've already said that. Then Frankenstein himself dies. And Frankenstein's monster comes in and says, "Oh, I feel so bad about this." Why do you get to feel bad? You tortured this man. You've already... Life for a life or something in this case. You've just killed and killed and killed. I don't... You have a pitiable existence at first, but you didn't deserve any of this at the end.
So let me ask you, it's difficult, I know, with something so famous. To force it from all the movies you've seen, from everything... I know.
It's nothing like any of the movies.
Right. Just as a book on its own, what's it like? Is it good? Did you like it?
I would still give it a yeah. Wow, you had that fast.
That's what all the girls say.
So, but I would say this. I think that you have to go in first knowing it's nothing like any of the movies.
Less so even than Dracula, right?
Oh, yeah. Dracula, in many of the movies, they try to make it seem like the book. In some of them, sure, you have your Bela Lugosi, which isn't super similar. But, yeah, this to me... I don't know. I feel like... So I see Jekyll and Hyde in the back here, and I'm like, it's kind of more like that type of feeling in a way.
It is, yeah.
It's more like, but it's all about philosophical issues as well. Should I have created him, or should I create his wife to at least appease him and maybe give him some sort of happiness, but also risk her being an enemy to humans, and also maybe getting it on with a monster and creating an army of babies or something. Like, okay, I don't know about that necessarily, but there's at least some ideas.
I just had to quickly check because you mentioned earlier Treasure Island being by Robert Louis Stevenson, and when you just mentioned Jekyll and Hyde, I was like,
also did that.
that's also him. I just looked it up. Yeah, that is also him.
Which I have also not read.
Jekyll and Hyde's fantastic. I've read the book, I've seen lots of movies, and I've seen a theatrical performance in the Opera House. Just a good story. The whole concept is fantastic.
Yeah.
That leads me into something I wanted to say about this. Correct me if I'm wrong, but here's my idea. I think that as a concept, Frankenstein is fantastic.
Yes.
And certainly a much more interesting concept than, for example, Dracula. But I think that the book itself just isn't as good a piece of literature.
I'd say that a lot of that is probably because of our preconceptions about what it is like from movies in a way. Because I think splitting it into thirds with you have the monster story in the second third, and in the final third you have back to Frankenstein determining whether he should do this or not, and basically finding out that everyone around him is dying. I think each of those parts can work, but I don't know if they would necessarily work together.
Okay.
Because I like hearing the monsters part, but I don't think this works with the rest of it. Each bit is separate. I kind of see it like when I think of the movie Inglourious Basterds. Each of those scenes are fantastic, but it does not work as a coherent movie to me necessarily.
Okay, yeah.
So I enjoy it for those scenes, but I don't necessarily think that they all connect.
That's fair. That makes sense. Cool.
Very mixed review, I would say, but I think it's a fair review.
Yeah, I don't disagree with anything you've said, so I'll give you that. Yeah.
Yeah, yay! Woo!
I think that we pretty much were. When I got your initial thoughts, we were just like, yeah, we're in agreement about 90% of this stuff.
I know you like Dracula a bit more than me, but I will say, yeah, you know what, Dracula, better story.
Yeah,
because...
and that's what I wanted to come back to. You mentioned that you kind of feel a bit, you are more identifying with Frankenstein. I definitely identify with Dracula. I do want to be Dracula.
You want to be a count, I want to be a scientist. It's perfect. Now, I will say this. I do think Frankenstein is a better ending.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if I remember the details of the endings of both well enough.
So, Dracula's ending, obviously, he's being taken by, the people in the cart and being chased down. And within 2 sentences, killed. That's the second to last page, basically. What is it? Quincy also died.
Yeah. Okay.
Here, you see, basically, Frankenstein, he's going for his vengeance, but fails, and it's truly, it's a tragedy for him. But it's also a tragedy for the monster, because the monster's purpose was to lead Frankenstein around and kind of torture him. Now he has nothing left to live for. And I feel like
there is no purpose to his life, and he only knows one person, right?
Yeah. There's so many more questions and so much more to discuss, I think, with the ending of Frankenstein. Dracula's just oh, well, wow, that ended fast. And it was anticlimactic. This one, I feel like, had a great ending.
Okay.
So
cool. Yeah. Overall, I mean, and again, the comparisons either with Dracula or with the movies might both be unfair.
Yes.
I think as a book,
Dracula starts better.
Yeah, we still gave it a yeah, right? It's a good book.
Yeah.
We're happy. Yeah.